Tonight on Brian Ross Investigates, Donald Trump under oath. Did he tell the truth when asked about a convicted felon once tied to the Russian mafia who served as his senior advisor?
If he were sitting in the room right now, I really wouldn't know what he looked like.
Isn't it true that President Trump knew convicted Russian mobster Felix Seder in 2013 when he made that statement?
Yes.
Plus, the lawyer Trump went after when she wanted a break to use a breast pump.
I may have said that's disgusting. I may have said something else. I thought it was terrible.
I've been called worse things on the playground when I was 9. So I don't know what people are making such a big deal about, including you, Mr. Ross.
And our shout out for the reporter who figured out what started all those California fires by listening to the police radio.
Conditions, power lines, possible connection to a tree at 1487.
From the Law and Crime Network studios in New York City, this is Brian Ross Investigates. Good evening and welcome. Tonight, Donald Trump under oath. He has so far declined to answer questions in person under oath from special counsel Robert Mueller. But before he was president, he had to testify under oath in a lot of lawsuits brought against him dealing with his real estate business. And now some of what came out in those lawsuits could affect the ongoing criminal investigations of Trump and his business circle. We start with how he answered questions about a twice convicted felon by the name of Felix Seder, a man once tied to the Russian mafia who became a senior advisor to Donald Trump. Among those on the stage when Donald Trump announced he was about to build the Soho Trump Hotel and condo project in New York City was Felix Seder, a twice convicted felon described as having ties to the Russian mafia.
Raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Trump was repeatedly asked about Seder in a lawsuit involving a different Trump project in Florida, in which Seder was also involved.
Do you recall when you met Mr. Seder for the first time?
No, many years ago.
Okay.
I don't know him well at all, but it was many years ago.
Then Trump was asked about how he responded to the BBC when its reporter asked him about Felix Seder.
You stayed in bed, if I may say so, with Felix Seder, and he was connected with the mafia.
Again, John, maybe you're thick, but when you have a signed contract, you can't, in this country, just break it. Sometimes we'll sign a deal, and the partner isn't as good as we'd like, but that does happen. And by the way, John, I hate to do this, but I do have that big group of people waiting, so I have to
Okay,
leave.
no, hold on. One last question, please, sir.
I have to leave. Thank you.
Okay, all right then. Sir, let me shake your hand. And things have been...
He said, you stayed in bed, if I may say so, with Felix Seder, and he was connected with the mafia. Do you see that?
I don't think he was connected to the mafia. He got into a barroom fight, and in fact, he was supposedly very close to the government of the United States as a witness or something, but I don't think he was connected to the mafia. He got into trouble because he got into a barroom fight, which a lot of people do. I don't, because I don't drink. But I don't think he was connected to the mafia. But, you know, again, I don't know him very well, but I don't think he was connected to the mafia. This was a BBC reporter who tried to sensationalize an interview, and, you know, he had a little fun. But I don't see Felix as being a member of the mafia.
Okay. Now, that's your opinion. Do you have
That's my opinion.
Stories in the Miami Herald, the New York Times, and court documents all reflect that Seder was convicted in a Russian mafia-run stock scam.
Do you remember ever discussing the content of this article with him?
With Mr. Seder?
Mr. Seder, yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Did you ever discuss at any point issues relating to the barroom brawl?
Nothing I remember.
Okay. About how many times have you conversed with Mr. Seder?
Over the years?
Over the years, if you could estimate.
Not many.
Not many.
If he were sitting in the room right now, I really wouldn't know what he looked like.
Okay.
That was not true, according to the testimony last week of Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Over the years, President Trump was asked how many times he interacted with convicted Russian mobster Felix Seder. In 2013, President Trump testified that, quote, not many. If he were sitting in the room right now, I really wouldn't know what he looked like, unquote. Mr. Cohen, as you previously testified, isn't it true that President Trump knew convicted Russian mobster Felix Seder in 2013 when he made that statement?
Yes.
Isn't it true that because of Mr. Seder's relationship to the Trump organization, that he had an office in the Trump Tower?
And on the 26th floor, Mr. Trump.
And the 26th floor is important. Why?
Because it's Mr. Trump's floor.
So he had an office on the same floor as President Trump.
In fact, his office, when he left, became my office.
And on top of that, the Trump organization actually printed business cards for Seder, describing him as a senior advisor to Donald Trump. A fact noted by Trevor Noah on The Daily Show when he used a broadcast report I had done for ABC News.
In fact, like Russia, he apparently doesn't even know the Seder dude exists.
At the time of the Moscow deal, Trump executives denied to ABC News that Seder had any current role with Trump.
To say he's a senior advisor to Mr. Trump at any point in time would not have been accurate in my mind, or in Mr. Trump's mind.
Yet Seder was given cards by the Trump organization calling him a senior advisor to Donald Trump.
Oh, man. No, but come on, guys. Come on. This is the same lie as the Russia one. I have nothing to do with this guy. Oh, actually, he's my senior advisor. And I printed it in gold. That's how I did it. I printed it in gold.
Joining us now is the lawyer who we heard on tape questioning Donald Trump, Jared Beck of Miami, and former Trump Organization executive Barbara Rez, author of the book All Alone on the 68th Floor. Mr. Beck, let me start with you. When you questioned Donald Trump about Felix Seder, did you at that time think he was telling the truth?
Well, let me say this. At the time I took that deposition, you have to realize that this was in the context of a failed Trump Fort Lauderdale development that Donald Trump took his name off of. And so he pulled out of the development, and I represented a number of clients who were suing to get their money back because they believed they'd been deceived into investing in the property because of Donald Trump's name. Nobody was thinking about Russians or Trump's business with Russia or even Donald Trump becoming president. But at the time of that deposition, I was seeking to explore Donald Trump's business relationships. And I already knew at the time that there was a close relationship between Bayrock, the company that Felix Seder worked for, and the Trump organization. But when Donald Trump said at that deposition that he wouldn't recognize Felix Seder if he was in the same room as him, that just didn't strike me as credible based on the fact that we knew that Bayrock and the Trump organization had such a close connection.
So he was under oath when he told you that. Was that perjury in your view? Should there be some sanction for him, some charge?
Absolutely. If somebody tells an untruth, a flat untruth under oath, then that's the very definition of perjury.
Barbara Rez, let me ask you, watching all this, watching the back and forth about Donald Trump, who you worked with for many years, what's your take on Mr. Trump and his connection to the truth?
You know, in my experience, and again, my experience is quite a while ago, he used hyperbole a lot. I mean, everything was the best or the worst, and clearly nothing is the best or the worst in real life. So right there, he was, not saying what was actually true. I saw him talk about things that were not so very consequential, and this was not under oath, but certainly he lied about things, absolutely. There was a government official who used to say, I wouldn't believe him if his tongue were notarized. And I think that pretty much gives you an idea of what, dealing with him was like and what he was doing. Again, it wasn't under oath.
Ms. Rez, we've got a question from the control room. It's a Help Me Rhonda moment from our executive producer, Rhonda Schwartz. Rhonda?
Barbara, in all those years of working with Trump and watching the Michael Cohen testimony and the Mueller investigation, how do you think Donald Trump is taking all this? What do you think he's thinking about all this that's going around him?
I would say he's probably very enraged. He's not used to this. He's not used to this kind of treatment. He's not used to something happening that he doesn't like, that he can't quash right away. So I would say he's probably very angry. And, you know, you probably get tidbits of this from the staff. He's probably not easy to talk to right now.
Jared Beck, let me ask you, why do you think Trump was so eager to distance himself from Felix Seder?
Well, at our deposition, the issue was who was funding this project. And Felix Seder was known to have a very shady past. In 2013, when we took this deposition, the New York Times had run an article about how Seder had been convicted in a pump and dump stock scheme that was connected to the mafia. And so I just think Trump did not want anything on the record associating himself or his organization specifically with someone who had such a known shady past and a connection to the criminal underworld.
Some criminal law experts have suggested that if he was involved in any way of keeping Seder's name out of it and applied for bank loans by not disclosing Seder's involvement, that could amount to bank fraud. Do you think there's something to that?
Well, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I'm a civil lawyer. But you know, I think the real question is, you know, if Trump was applying for loans and he wasn't disclosing all the material facts, and one of his material partners was in fact someone like a Felix Seder with the background that Seder had, yes, I could see that rising to the level of a fraud claim.
And at this point, given the testimony of Coe now, are you going to recommend to somebody there be potential perjury charges brought against the President of the United States?
Well, you know, our involvement in that litigation has long since ended. I think that, you know, the issues are now before Congress. I'm going to be watching with great interest, as I think most of the country is, when Mr. Seder testifies on Capitol Hill. And I think that testimony that comes out of Mr. Seder's mouth is going to be very, very interesting. It's going to give us even more of a picture into the actual relationship that Trump had with him.
That's right. He testifies next Thursday. By the way, we've contacted him through his lawyer, asked him to appear on the program as well, no response. Barbara Rez, to get back to you for a second, do you think, is there a whole pattern here of criminality that underlies the Trump organization?
I really can't say. You know, I worked in development construction. I didn't have much to do with financing or any of this stuff that is coming up now. I just, I don't know that there was any criminal activities. I never saw it.
You dealt with Michael Cohen just briefly more recently. What was that like?
I wrote an article. It was an op-ed piece for the Daily News, and it was, I thought, somewhat flattering to Trump. It was just describing my experiences with him as a person that worked for him, as a woman that worked in a hot position. And right after that was published, I got a call from Michael, and it was kind of like, I'm a lawyer, I work for Donald Trump, and do you know that what slander is, and do you know what, not slander, but libel is, and what defamation is? And I said, you know, Michael, I have people here. Can I call you back?
So he could be a bully, I guess.
He tried to bully me, but I mean, it was not. He tried to threaten me with a lawsuit. I mean, it was silly. It was ill-conceived.
Well, Barbara Rez and Jared Beck, thank you so much for joining us. And for you, Mr. Beck, this has been a kind of husband-wife effort with your wife, Elizabeth, also questioning Trump under oath, provoking some remarkable outbursts from Mr. Trump. I talked with Elizabeth earlier. When you were face-to-face, it appeared to be a very contentious session, was it?
It wasn't my most... I don't know if it was my most contentious session. Nobody cried, but I would say it's in my top 5. As part of my preparation, I was reading deposition transcripts of Donald Trump taken by other lawyers who were adverse to him. And, you know, those transcripts were vomitous because, okay, I know he's a quasi-celebrity. He's been in the news since the 80s. And these people, they take his deposition and they sit down and they say, I've told you this before. They say, oh, Mr. Trump, it's such an honor to be before you today. I just want to ask you a few questions. you know? And I'm like, who the hell side are you on, buddy? Okay? And they get very starstruck. And I saw this over and over and over again. I saw it with lawyers who would throw their weight around and act like big shots, and then Donald Trump comes in the room and they turn into jellyfish.
He tried to demean you. He tried to deflect your questions. He said they were stupid questions. He asked if you even knew what you were doing. Is that just a tactic,
Well,
you think?
does he know what he's doing? I mean, really? Okay, I've been called worse things on the playground when I was 9. So I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it, including you, Mr. Ross.
I want to get an idea of what it was like to take the deposition of Donald Trump.
It was like I said, it was a big pain in the ass because he ran out of there. It was November 16. My baby was born in August. So I had a 3-month-old baby that I was breastfeeding. And as anybody who's done that knows, you can't just suddenly stop. He started screaming, "That's disgusting! You're disgusting!" I don't know why he thought it was disgusting. Maybe because it involves tits, but it's like a dialysis. It's a medical procedure. You need to do it. You know. He said, "You're disgusting." He ran out of there.
What happened is, in the middle of everything, it wasn't breastfeed. You used the word breastfeed. It was breast pump. She wanted to pump in front of me during a deposition.
The way she described it was that she wanted to take a break so she could take the pump out.
In fact, if you ask my lawyer, who was there, he said, I've never seen anything like it. She wanted to breast pump in front of me. And I may have said that's disgusting. I may have said something else. I thought it was terrible. She's a horrible person, knows nothing about me. I see her, she's now the great expert on Donald Trump.
No, I'm not a horrible person. I mean, I'm a lot of things, but I'm not horrible. You know, he and his lawyer started disseminating all these lies about how I was in a state of undress. Really ridiculous. Ridiculous. That was a lie. And all these people automatically believed them because, you know, as far as they're concerned, you know, it's like he can do no wrong, which I found very disturbing.
Well, so bottom line, in dealing with Donald Trump, when he's under oath, what's the key to getting the truth out of him?
I think intelligence agencies and military organizations around the world would love to have the answer to your question, is how do you get a person to tell the truth?
Elizabeth Beck, thank you very much for joining us. Next, our shout out for the reporter who figured out what really happened in those deadly California fires. Our shout-out tonight goes to a dogged reporter in the San Francisco Bay Area whose work has helped to uncover what really happened in several deadly fires, showing they probably could have and should have been prevented.
Everybody get out now. This is the Santa Rosa Police Department. It's time to go.
Just last year in 2018, there was the state's deadliest and most destructive fire, the Camp Fire.
Reporter Matthias Gaffney, known as T in the newsroom, was determined to find out the story of what happened, using a database that archives police and fire frequencies.
And I just started listening right around the time that they believed the fire started. And sure enough, I heard that a dispatcher get a call.
Looking across under the high tension power lines, there's a possible power line hazard.
And they basically reported that there were wires down underneath transmission lines.
Engine 2176, you copy power line hazard.
And this is right at the moment that the campfire is believed to have started, and right in the area that the campfire was believed to have started.
Engine 2176 responding, copy power lines down.
And so that was a real big break in finding out what may be the cause for this fire.
The evidence pointing to the state's giant PG&E utility.
PG&E just now said that they are probably at fault with their equipment having a malfunction. And so that was, just a few days after the campfire that we were able to narrow that down and show that PG&E very well could be at fault.
And beyond the equipment malfunction, Gaffney determined that PG&E, if it followed its own guidelines, should have shut down the power in such high-risk fire conditions.
Most of those criteria were actually met prior to the campfire, yet for some reason they decided to keep the power on.
PG&E now has declared bankruptcy, saying it expects to face massive lawsuits.
Okay, guys.
2 years earlier, in another deadly fire, Gaffney was just as adept in disproving the notion that city officials in Oakland were unaware of potentially dangerous conditions at a huge warehouse called The Ship, where dozens of artists and musicians had taken up residence.
We wound up getting police body cam footage, and we found that police officers routinely were responding there. And when they responded there, we found a couple things out from their body cam footage. One was that the lead tenant of that warehouse was saying that no one lived inside the warehouse, which was not true. And then, but we also found that in one instance, 2 police officers respond to a call for service cams. You see them walking through this maze inside the warehouse, and you can hear one of the officers say something to the effect of, all it would take is one match and this place would go up.
One spark and it will go back.
36 people died in the fire. 2 of the building's principal tenants have been charged criminally, and both the city and the landlord are facing huge lawsuits. Gaffney's reporting on the Ship fire earned him and his fellow reporters a Pulitzer Prize, and 2 weeks ago he joined the San Francisco Chronicle after being named the Journalist of the Year in Northern California by the Society of Professional Journalists.
I'm born and raised in the Bay Area here, and I have a family. I find it really impactful to kind of do reporting that immediately impacts my community and the people I've grown up with and I love and respect. So it's really pretty rewarding.
So our shout out tonight to Matthias Gaffney. That's our program. Thanks for joining us. Good night.